What's up, guys? Welcome to my next video, and this is English Grammar Explained, and today we talk about causative form. What is this thing? What is causative form? And is it different from complex object? Because causative form is variety of complex object, and we know that complex object consists of four main things. It consists of subject, firstly, then the main verb, that's the second place, then object number one, it can be noun, it can be pronoun, whatever, and then I can have infinitive, some form of infinitive, or some form of participle, present participle or past participle, or participle. And this is it. This is my complex object. Then I can have some other words, but it's not so important. So my complex object is just here. This is it. If I have an infinitive, that's all okay. For example, I want you to help me. This is the classical, canonical case of complex object. Or, for example, I saw him drinking tea. That's a bit less canonical, but it's a complex object with participle, present participle. But I can have another sentence. I can have something like this. I have my hair cut. And this is what? This is complex object as well, but I have causative form. This thing here, this is not an infinitive, it is participle too. Because the verb cut, it's a regular verb, and it has three forms, just the same, all the same, cut, cut, cut. That's the participle too. Another peculiarity of this structure is that it is, in some kind, in some way, it is passive. It means that here, I didn't cut my hair myself. Somebody else cut it. And now I have a result. I could tell it in some other way. For example, my hair was cut, or is cut because here we have present tense, so here as well, is cut by a beautician or hairdresser. And that will be quite the same as here. That's the same thing told just in another way. But here I have a so-called passive voice. This is passive structure. My head actually doesn't do anything. But here I have an active structure. I have. So causative form in some way is always passive. Is it true for all causative forms? Basically, no. Let's have another example of causative form. I had my friends help me. So what we have here? We have subject, we have the main verb, and this is my first object here, so-called. And then I have what? I have an infinitive. Here is bare infinitive. But this is causative form. This is not a canonical complex object. This is causative form, my friends, with bare infinitive. But this thing here is a bit different from this thing here. Here we have passive structure because my hair, my first object here, is passive. It doesn't do anything. But in my second sentence in here, my object is active. My friend actually performs some action, helps me. And this is active. So I can say that causative form can be either active or passive. And when it is active, it needs infinitive, not past participle. It is used with infinitive. But passive causative form is used with participle, past participle. Why is causative form with infinitive active? Because object number 1 actually performs the action. It does something. But with past participle, object number 1 doesn't do anything. Moreover, the action is performed on it. That's very important. Some people can say, well, I can say that if I, especially when I have infinitive in my complex object, I can say, what's the difference? Is it causative form or not? If I have infinitive, that's okay. That's complex object, and so on, so on. Or maybe, how can I tell whether it's complex object or causative form? Because they all just the same. Well, they are the same, but there is another peculiarity about causative form. It is always used with the same main verb. That's interesting, but it's the fact. So, in causative form, we have subject, and then we have the main verb. But we cannot have any main verb we like. We can only have basically two main verbs, have or get. That's it. And then we can have our object number 1. That's the third position. And then we can have infinitive or participle. And that's the fourth position. So, the main difference between causative form and regular complex object is about its main verb. So, if you see have or get in your complex object, you have causative form. There are some other things to remember about causative form. When we have sentences with infinitive, we have to remember that if we use have, then we have object, number one, or agent. Some people call it agent. Then we have bare infinitive. Remember it. Bare infinitive without to. That's very important. But if we use get, we also have object number one, just like this. But we have full infinitive. With get, we have full infinitive. So remember this. Our object number one is here active. Here and here. So it can be called agent, but I don't want to call it agent. If we have past participle, that's no difference what we use, have or get, no matter. Then we have object number one, and it is passive, that's very important. Then we have past participle. And this shows us that our action performed by somebody. We use causative form to talk about the actions which we don't do ourselves. Somebody does it for us. That's very important to remember. Somebody or something, but in most cases somebody. Does them for us. That's a very important thing to remember. We use causatives to talk about actions which we don't do ourselves. That's very important. So, sometimes causative form is called just some kind of passive voice. Well, maybe it's kind of passive voice, but anyway, it is also kind of complex object. That's important to remember. And this is it. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel.